And joining us for a look at yesterday's results is a longtime political consultant and a contributor to the Boston Herald, Joyce Ferriabough Bolling. Thank you very much for being with us, Joyce.
Thank you, always.
There's a backstory to every front story here.
Sure.
And tell me the backstory about this district and how that was a factor in the vote yesterday.
First of all, you have a candidate like Ayanna Pressley, who is a monster campaigner, more than anybody that I know, and that's why she tops the ticket every single time. And then, my late husband used to always say about her, and we agreed that she's a once-in-a-lifetime public servant. And he used public servant like she cares. There's the compassion. You can see she's lived a life where she's been denied, where she and her mother were all they had, and both being black and a woman, the challenges that they had to go to. And I really don't think that Congressman Capuano saw that even though he was bringing home the bacon, a lot of people could not eat that bacon. And our district is horrible. It's like I've never seen anything like it. The crisis, the average income for blacks and Hispanics as opposed to white. And even the white middle class didn't like that because the buzzwords here were fair and equal, because they are seeing so many unfair things under this president that is horrible. Kids in cages, and so change and fair and equal were really strong and powerful words. It wasn't just about fighting Trump. In fact, there's been too much fighting long before Trump. And so you have, generations of people still having those things happen to them where it's unfair and unequal. Schools, the prison system, women's rights, still guns, generation after generation. And, although the media try to portray this like they're both in the same and they will vote the same, sure, they'll vote the same, but they will lead different. And Ayanna continued that message, even though, the media wanted to paint, identity politics. They're the same. So what's the difference? And I think that, the fact that, frankly, that she was a black woman and that there's a national trend where black women who have been the least to get into the political system because they have to deal with both gender and race. Let me just face it, gender and race. And so are just very energized by some opportunities here and opportunities to change things. So that to me was this race that Capuano saw, his contributions as the billions of dollars he brought in for the transit, for housing, but he didn't see the people on the street. He didn't see the people like I see them when I go into Newmarket Square, sleeping on the street, whole families. But Ayanna did, because she's seen it in her own life story. So I think you saw, that's how it laid out. And the other thing is, I know that some people thought because he rolled in John Lewis and Maxine Waters, but that had a very bad backlash. It even had a backlash by some of the ministers in the church where Dr. King preached at the 12th Baptist Church, because they were like, well, how dare, Boston is very like turf. And they love Lewis, don't get me wrong. But they didn't love him coming here and in the church that Dr. King spoke at and going against a black woman whose work was, supporting the least of these. You know, that's a biblical term, but that's how it was. And there was a horrible backlash, you know, about that. And so you had that. And when I saw that, even with bringing all of them in and all of his national credentials, when you got to win at the grass level, and he only went up 1 percentage point in 3 months, I knew she was winning it. First of all, I knew she was winning it all along. Okay.
And a lot of the media, their spin was, that Ayanna's stagnating, but actually it was Capuano.
Well, thank you. And not only that, but you know, Capuano really was the person who was pushing out the identity politics, because, as you know, sometimes identity politics and the concept is kind of used negatively, and he kind of used it as sort of like a weapon. I mean, he actually said on NPR, which was brought up at one of the forums, the only thing I can't be is a black woman. You know, and I remember that some of my media buddies would say, yeah, but he's half Italian, half Irish, you know, that. And I think that people, you know, also didn't, you know, buy that. So, and they wanted change, and people do want a change. Some of the stuff that's happening under this president has really been horrific. You don't know what's going to happen from day to day. And now we're dealing with Kavanaugh. And for women, I don't care, black women, you know, for women, this is a very important fight. Now, he's probably going to win it because they have a, you know, plurality in the Senate, but I think the pressure still needs to bear on that. And I think that when you have a person like Ayanna, and by the way, all of the members of the mass delegation, not afraid to speak out, not afraid to jump right out there. In the last few months of the campaign, Congressman Capuano did jump out there. He went to visit, you know, folks in at the wall, not the wall, at the
border,
and so forth and so on. But there's been a lack of consistency, obviously. And people saw that. They saw that strong.
This has been on news, and we're talking with political consultant Joyce Ferriabough Bolling. Joyce, interesting parallel here between Ayanna Pressley and also Rachel Rollins, who was the Democratic primary winner for DA. You know, they were both at a disadvantage when it came to fundraising and the way they outreach to people. They were not doing it through the mainstream media. How do you account for that?
Well, let me just say that how they did it, the similarities between the two is that no media was really important to them. They wore out shoe leather. They knocked the doors. Both of them did not really have surrogates. You know, they had, you know, people calling and so, but they did the face to face. Now, conventional wisdom was sort of turned on its head in this election and across the country now. You know, you had Andrew Gilliam, who
in Florida,
right, who was shocked when he won. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, she also was shocked by it. So you could see that conventional wisdom was being, you know, kind of turned on its head, meaning that there wasn't really a big reliance on media. I'm going to be really honest with you, and I, you know, worked with Rachel as well. And you would think, and this is what I thought at the beginning, you have 3 women running, you have 4 people of color. You know, I went through it, as you know, with Charlotte's race when we had 8. It got, you know, all chopped up, and that's what you thought would happen here. That is the conventional wisdom. It did not. And I do say that part of the equation was, I'm going to say this, you know, social media. I mean, at a level that is beyond belief. That was used heavily to reach people. In our generation, it was, you know, the horse and pony. but you know, but also now, they also have the talent and the smartness to also find people who understood how to do it, at the, say OG level too. So very smart young people, millennials. And by the way, the millennials won this race for her and for Ayanna.
I saw plenty of them last night at IBEW Hall.
I know you did.
Okay.
You had the whole hall just about.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Welcome.
Joyce Ferriabough Bolling. We'll have more news in just a moment.